So, I saw Hamilton. It doesn't feel like it, but Hamilton is kind of old. Almost as old as this channel. I remember back in October 2015 when it was this new musical that Paige had heard about on Tumblr that she was listening to all the time, and she got me hooked on it. There are a few Hamilton references in the videos we made that month. Paige! You have to stop listening to the Hamilton soundtrack right now!
Why?
They were largely esoteric when we were making them, but then it exploded into the mainstream in a way that the majority of stage musicals don't. Because that's how good it is, and how well the concept is executed. When it was announced in 2018 that the tour would be coming to Tampa, my passion for the show had cooled considerably, settling into a more comfortable and permanent place in my heart. I had no intention of spending a couple $100 on tickets, especially for a musical so popular that I knew I wouldn't have trouble seeing it sometime over the next 60 years or so that I'm hopefully on this planet, or that our planet exists, hopefully. But it didn't stop me from entering the lottery while it was here, though I was never successful. But the girlfriend was! Theatre is becoming a tradition for our England visits because it's so easy to see things in London. We entered the lottery for Chris Child and Hamilton, and she won for Hamilton. We saw the Thursday matinee at the Victoria Palace Theatre, and it was awesome. But it was also a bit disappointing. Why? First off, I want y'all to know that I'm very grateful and aware of how lucky I was to see Hamilton. Second, I love this show. Nothing is above reproach, and Hamilton has its problems. But this is not going to be the anti-Hamilton hour. This video isn't going to be an hour. I really admire what Lin-Manuel Miranda has done in creating Hamilton, in terms of both creativity and real-life impact. I understand some people don't like it, or the phenomenon of it, but frankly, it's had a huge positive impact, it's important to a lot of people, it's helped the careers of many actors of color, I'm all for education through inventive creative means, and people liking a popular thing does not make them bad. It's going to save us a lot of time if I don't have to preface every sentence with the reassurance that I think the show is a good, quality show that I really like. Finally, if you're debating whether or not to finish this video because you think it's just going to be a white girl complaining about Hamilton, I promise there's going to be a positive takeaway. I am not trying to convince you that Hamilton is trash, or that you should swear off your dream of seeing it, or even that you should feel sorry for me. That's not what this video is about. Let's go. Fandom revolves around mythology, and from its opening number being performed at the White House back in 2009, to the original cast's adorable camaraderie, Hamilton is bursting with it. And at the center of it all is Lin-Manuel Miranda, who is not only very intelligent, creative, and compassionate, but very, very charming.
Can Lin-Manuel Miranda run for president? I'd rather do anything. I'd rather eat this poster board.
There's no dig or judgment or challenge of anyone's authenticity there. It's just true. He is unabashedly passionate about what he makes, and it's infectious. I mean, just look at him! Look at him! Look at him! Back in 2015, I really loved Hamilton. I'd always loved musicals, but Hamilton was the first time I got to join a fandom for one from the beginning. I listened to the cast album for about 6 months straight. I devoured the ham for hams, the fragments of numbers that were professionally recorded, the interviews, the live performances. I forced my family to watch these things. The intensity of that original attachment, even having lessened within the last year and a half or so, resulted in really high expectations for the London cast, even though I knew they were unfair. But knowing it was impossible for them to live up to my cast album-fueled fantasy version of the original Broadway cast didn't stop me from feeling that way, because humans are stupid. But I wasn't a bit disappointed by the West End cast. They were amazing. Our Angelica was Elena Vincent. She's apparently part of the ensemble. Thank you to the West End Understudies Twitter, because she was not printed in the program as playing Angelica that night. She sang Satisfied so well, it made me cry. It's never made me cry before. And Taryn Calendar as Hercules Mulligan. Don't get me started on Taryn Calendar as Hercules Mulligan. Oh my god, he was amazing! I realized later it wasn't because I thought the original cast was better, but because I felt like I knew them. If this seems like a tangent, that's because it totally is! But if I name drop parasocial relationships here, it makes me 28% more likely to be considered a serious left-tuber. Parasocial relationships. Being so immersed in the Broadway production, I knew who the principal players were. Even some of the ensemble. They were people I admired, and if I had seen that production, part of my enjoyment would have been getting to see those specific people in person. Jack McBrayer is at least 80% of why I wanted to see Waitress during that same trip to London, and all of my Instagram friends are obsessed with it. It was fun. It wasn't the cast. No, my biggest disappointment was that I had expected a little more narrative, because I'm a f***ing story nerd. Something that makes Hamilton different from most musicals is that it has almost no book, that is, non-musical scenes. But Hamilton didn't start out as a musical. It was originally conceived as a concept album.
Thinking of it as a mixtape turned out to be a real blessing in disguise. Because I think if I had thought of it as a stage piece from the beginning, I wouldn't have packed the lyrics as tight as I did.
The show is about 2 hours and 45 minutes, which includes a 15-minute intermission. Most cast albums for shows that length are a little over an hour. The cast album for Hamilton is 2 hours and 23 minutes. Having seen a handful of musicals by now, my expectation was that about 95% of the narrative was on the cast album. In reality, it was more like 99%. I refrained from bootlegs and any kind of real reviews of the show. The former because I thought it might spoil it, and the latter because I thought I knew everything that would be in a review. I was kind of right, I guess? Ish. But if I had done either of those things, I would have known that the cast album is essentially a straight, unedited studio recording of the show. There's very few pauses even in between the music, even in places where I expected there to be one. There is one scene that lasts a little under 2 minutes that is not on the album, and I knew about it before going in. But even if I hadn't, I don't think it would have been enough to satisfy the expectation that I had. I liked the story a lot, and I wanted even more of it, and I was disappointed when there wasn't more. I unconsciously idealized the show for 4 years based on this criteria, but I also idealized seeing the show, to a point where finally seeing it didn't feel like the gilded reward I'd been promised. I wanna be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens. Theater in America is hard to access anyway, but Broadway even more so. For one thing, we're a big country. Assuming you can't get to Manhattan or don't live in a major city, you might have trouble finding a theater that is big enough to host something like a Broadway tour in the first place. Even if you do, it still costs money, with really good seats going for probably about $200 at least. Perhaps an even bigger barrier is the one that prevents people from even looking in the first place. The perception that theater, Broadway especially, is only for the upper class. Surely this is an overly simplistic stereotype? It's not. I've read several of the Broadway League's executive summaries for their annual demographic reports, and there's not a lot of change from year to year. There's certainly enough consistency that I can confidently tell you who the average Broadway theater goer has been for the past decade. A 45-year-old college-educated white female tourist who sees 2 or 3 shows a year, plays a bit more than musicals, with her annual household income of $200,000. From here on out, I'll be pulling numbers from the 2017-2018 report. So, the idea that Broadway is just for rich people? It's not unfounded. The average annual household income of the Broadway audience is quite high. Is this because of the occasional Bezos skewing the average with an extremely high outlier? Actually, yeah, the average, or mean, is not really a good indication of wealth distribution. Because of filthy rich billionaires, the number is always higher than most actual households make. The median, on the other hand, gives a more accurate representation of typical income. It's the middlemost value. So when the Census Bureau says the 2017 median household income in the US was just over $60,000 a year, they mean that 50% of the population made more than that and 50% made less than that. Yeah, you didn't think you were gonna get statistics lessons in this musical theater video, did ya? Math! The median household income of the Broadway audience is somewhere between $110,000 and $125,000 a year. So Broadway attendees make almost twice as much as the average American household. The majority of people see between 1 and 4 shows a year. People we can safely assume, like Broadway a lot, who see at least 15 performances a year, make up a very measly 5.5% of the audience, but a very respectable chunk, 31%. Of tickets purchased. It's tempting to look at these numbers for frequency of attendance and annual household income and come to the conclusion that wealthy audiences are fake fans who only see one show a year and they're just ruining it for the rest of us. But just because we have average numbers doesn't mean the two categories can be equated with each other. But Sarah, you might say, you did this earlier when you outlined the average theater goer. Yes, I did, but I didn't assign any kind of personality or virtue to that theater goer. Let me explain. This report is done so teams can hone their marketing efforts for the next season. I would be surprised if there wasn't a breakdown of how income and frequency intersect in the full report, but I didn't want to pay $25 for it, and it doesn't really matter. My point is that frequency doesn't determine the sincerity of one's interests. Someone who sees one show every 2 years can care just as much as someone who sees one show every month. And it's difficult to determine whether the majority of Broadway's wealthy attendees would consider themselves fans of the theater or not. As much as we want to place blame, all we know is that they attend. So while yes, a lot of rich people buy Broadway tickets, we can't really say if the high prices created by this mostly affluent audience is due to a real love of theater or indifferent snobbery.
I want 2 tickets tonight for whatever Broadway show nobody can get tickets for.
For whom?
Me. I know, I seldom go to the theater.
Seldom.
Okay, I'm not a theater buff.
Buff?
It's probably both. Regardless, rich people are the reason prices are so high. They don't care about paying too much for tickets because they just can.
In 2001, the producers taught real-life producers that theatergoers were willing to pay $500 for a 2+ hour musical. Since then, more shows have started using dynamic pricing to charge the most when they expect demand to be strongest.
And then there's race. This last season, a quarter of all tickets purchased were by people of color. This number has slowly increased over the last few years, most likely due to the addition of several shows starring people of color. The obvious answer as to why more people of color don't buy Broadway tickets is money. It would be ridiculous to dismiss that, but as Gene Demby at NPR wrote back in 2016, this explanation is reductive. People of color definitely spend Hamilton levels of money on entertainment, they just don't spend it on Broadway. Why?
Theater has a long history of segregated seating and plays chock full of racist caricatures that meant black folks in particular never warmed to Broadway. It's hard enough getting comfortable in a social space when you're unfamiliar with its rules and conventions. It's even harder when you're aware of how much you stand out.
According to the Broadway League, 2/3 of people they surveyed said that a family member had taken them to the theater as a child. Lin-Manuel Miranda credits his father's love of musicals with his passion for musical theater. It's cyclical. I've seen a lot of people bash Hamilton for how it fits into this elitist system. The idea being that because it's attracted majority white audiences, that everyone involved who speaks to wanting a more diverse Broadway is a faux woke hypocrite. Which, no, that's not how this works. Hamilton's popularity led to a scramble for tickets and huge price jumps due to scalpers. But the rich bought them anyway, because they always have. Many popular shows have gone through the same thing before it. But Hamilton has unprecedented widespread appeal, meaning that more people are noticing this elitism Broadway has cultivated for the first time. It's not Hamilton's fault at all. But it's funny how the racially diverse hip-hop musical that wants to change the status quo is the one people like to point to when they want to shame and call out Broadway's privileged audiences. I wonder why that is. I'm not proud to admit this, but there was definitely a part of me that felt way too smug for managing to get in the door, even though it was entirely luck. I was sullen because I didn't feel like the VIP I'd been assured by the mounting hype I'd feel like for getting to see Hamilton, the most popular exclusive musical of my lifetime. Then that uppity attitude faded into bitterness at the fact that it was so exclusive in the first place. Premium seats during the 2017 winter holiday reached over $1,000 at the box office. Even just last year, the average tickets were $286 with the top price of $849. We saw it for £10 each, but I couldn't help but think throughout the show about what the other people in the audience must have paid to be there. Theater is worth more than the sum of its parts, but when the price is as high as the one Hamilton demands, it's hard not to assign those parts a monetary value. Is Hamilton good enough to justify spending hundreds or even thousands of dollars to see it? Honestly, I didn't think it was. Hamilton is a very, very good musical, but it's also just a musical. The choreography, the costumes, and set are all excellent, and no one in the cast was anything short of amazing. But compared to the other non-Hamilton shows I've seen, the production itself wasn't anything mind-blowing. It certainly wasn't something I would have found worth paying $500 for. Its wild success makes me wonder a few things. Like, how much of the overwhelming positive response and rave reviews weren't due to the execution of the production, but to its fresh approach and clever concept. We know the majority of people who are seeing the most popular amazing thing on Broadway right now are rich, middle-aged white people. How much of their awe can be attributed to never having seen actors of color in roles like this before? Or because they've literally never experienced rap or hip-hop in a context they cared about?
Fascinating. The same people who gave me a standing ovation wouldn't rise to their feet and scream if I got killed right here. Wouldn't bat an eye if I lived beneath the gravel they walk on every day. I matter on the platform, but I'm murdered in the shadows.
That was Carvens Lissaint. He is an incredible Haitian-American poet and actor who is currently playing George Washington in Hamilton on Broadway, though he will be concluding his run before the end of the month. He has a book of poems out called Target Practice, and his writing was so good that after reading just a few stanzas, I bought his book. And I'm so excited to read it. His website is in the description, along with a great Huffington Post profile. None of this is to say that Hamilton isn't worth the hype it's gotten, or that it's only made it so far, because inclusivity is so in right now. It's a high-quality show, deserving of praise, and I have no doubt that it will be remembered as one of the great American musicals, and Lin-Manuel Miranda as one of the great American musical composers. Deservedly so, I might add. It's nice to see a piece of history happen before your eyes that doesn't make you want to just throw the planet into the sun. Just chuck it up into there. Boop. But as important as Hamilton is, it's sad that it has trouble reaching the people it really wants to. It leaves me feeling a little bit disillusioned. How could it not?
Not a soul looks like me except the mother who always brings her daughter to the stage door after every performance when there's good weather. I'm amazed at her consistency, how mom is a boat, sails her daughter's dreams to the ends of the earth, doesn't cocoon them but suspends them in the air to take flight. She asks, is there any way I can get tickets?
Let me tell you what I wish I'd known.
I feel so guilty about critiquing the Hamilton production. I almost never feel this way critiquing a movie or a TV show or a book, and it's because those things are more accessible, and it feels indulgent to get anywhere near complaining territory for something that so many people want to see but don't have the chance to. But there are some things I want to go over, not to hate on the popular thing that everyone loves, but so that you can be better prepared if you do see it. If you are seeing Hamilton because you think you're going to get more explanation or story, you will be disappointed. If you've listened to the cast album, you already know everything about the story. That's not what you're paying for. You're paying to see that story performed in front of you. There's humor, but a very little bit, and it's applied delicately. Remember that just because they're not the original cast doesn't mean they're lesser. Everyone is there because they are very good at what they do. The cast album will always tell you the same story every time with the same words, timing, and inflection. Theater is a little bit different each time because even if you see the same people, they will always be different when you see them again. They will move a little differently, they might make a mistake. They might have a different energy with the audience or their castmates. But that's the wonderful thing about theater. It's the thing about theater. That's what people pay for. The living, breathing, different every time thing. It's okay if you like the cast album more than the show. The cast album makes the show so much more accessible, and the album is what Lin originally planned for. I actually think the album tells a more complete narrative than the show, but that doesn't make the show bad. You don't have to see the show unless you want to. And if you don't, it doesn't make you a bad or fake fan. But it's been a few years, and it's nice that it's becoming a little bit easier to see. There are tours in the US, the ongoing Chicago and London shows, and next year we might even finally see that 2016 taped version of the original cast that we were promised. We'll see about that. Theater isn't the easiest thing to access, but I do think it can be easier than people generally think, especially in terms of price. Really good seats could go for at least $200, like I said earlier, but it is possible to get adequate seats for as low as $25. When I go to my theater, the Straz Center for Performing Arts, I usually end up paying around $35 to maybe $60. It depends on the show and how badly I don't want to like lean forward in my seat the whole time. I'll be seeing the Percy Jackson musical next month and probably spending about $50 with the ticket costing $40 and the fees making up the difference. I bring up prices because I only recently started going to the theater because for the longest time I didn't think that I could. I want to encourage you to look and see what's going on in your community. Maybe Broadway tours aren't geographically an option for you. I mean, obviously, especially if you don't live in the United States, but you know. But there's still great stuff at community theaters. Just take a few minutes to look after you finish this. So, where do I stand on Hamilton? I wish I had been blown away by it, but I wasn't this time, and that was my own fault, partially. It's not surprising that so many years and so much talk about it impacted my first viewing, but I can honestly say I can't wait to see it again. It's only a matter of time. Thanks for watching.
The most difficult tickets will be for a Broadway musical.
Okay.
That means that the actors periodically will dance about and burst into song.
Hope you all found that interesting and or helpful. Always want to be interesting and helpful on this channel. I want to give a quick thanks to Andrea Lozelle, Scott Niswander of NerdSync, and Laurent Reedus for providing their voices to the various quotes that were in this script. Their information will be in the description below. I especially wanted Andrea to voice Lin-Manuel Miranda because she too is Puerto Rican. I thought it was a nice touch. Laurent Reedus does tons of really great reviews. He like makes 2 videos a week. You should definitely go watch his stuff. You all know NerdSync. He played Tim Burton in the Burton series. If you're not already subscribed, I would encourage you to subscribe. We make videos about media analysis. If you are subscribed and you haven't rung the bell, please do so down below. I've recently learned that the algorithm basically is not really showing you guys our videos anymore if you aren't getting notifications. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss any videos, you gotta ring the bell. I think that's about it. Thanks for sticking around. We'll see you real soon.